Hello there, this is Uncle from tacticalgamer.com, and today I'm going to do a tutorial, long overdue tutorial, on how I've been doing tasks. Recently, my older tutorials, two different ones, I did them two different ways. I'm now using the Bohemia functions on the server side to control creating tasks and setting them as being succeeded or failed, that sort of thing. So much easier to just run it server side and a lot less hit on the players for having less triggers, that sort of thing, that need to run on every single client. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a simple mission that has three different tasks. One is the player needs to get into the driver's seat of a prowler. So I've created some comments here. You can right click and place comment, and which is what I've done to create a little roadmap for while I create this mission. You may notice some difference here. I have now been using the Eden enhanced mod when I'm editing. This is great, just so as a once over, because I like you can do things like establishing shots, intro text, all of this stuff quite easily using the Eden enhanced. So I'm really liking using this mod, and really appreciate the creator of that mod for creating it. It makes editing quite a bit faster and easier. The second task that we're going to create is we got to take the prowler to this garage, and then we have to go eat lunch. So the mission will complete after we do these three tasks, and we're going to create them on the server side and using some scripts. So let's get into first of all creating the prowler that we're going to need. So I'm going to go to NATO objects, a car, and find a prowler. Press and hold Alt to put it down without a crew. I need to name this object as my target prowler, and there we go. I'm going to put it right inside the garage here. Okay, cool. Now that is all well and good. Let's head over to the scripts. Okay, so in my mission folder here, I'm going to create a new initserver.sqf. As soon as you create this file, it will then automatically be run. And I've created the file, and now I'm going to open it in my Notepad++, and all I'm going to do is basically tell it to run a script, which we still have to create. So exec VM, we're going to put it in a folder called scripts, and we'll call it init's tasks. Alright, so this is just going to run on the server side only, and then it'll start our script. Alright, so let's create our folder for our scripts. Enter that, and then create that new file, new text document for init tasks.sqf. Now I've opened that up in Notepad++ as well. Now I know what I want to do in this script is to create my tasks and then create some variables that I'm going to track whether or not the tasks have been completed. There's a couple of different ways that we can do it. I prefer to have all of my logic on setting my scripts, states, and that sort of thing. If I'm going to do it in a script, I want everything in a script so that it's easy for me to see just by looking at the script what's going on. I might have events that are going to be set off by a trigger in the mission, and I could put my task completion and that sort of stuff inside the trigger in the editor, but I can't see at a glance quickly and understand the logic and the flow of my entire mission. So if I'm going to use scripts, I want to use total scripts, but I'm going to show you the hybrid method here so that you have options. Alright, but it's not a practice that I would normally do. Let's say first of all, let's get over to the wiki for ArmA 3 on their functions, and I want to go Control F and find task create. And I don't want the module task create, so I'm going to search for the next one, and there we go. I'm going to open that up in a new tab. Okay, since I'm going to be doing this in the script, I'm going to copy some of this text out of here and make it easier into my new file. I'm going to create the kind of comment that spreads over several lines. By doing that, anything I type in here will not be run as code. So now I'm just going to paste in this information, and I want this as well, just to keep it easy so I don't have to Alt-Tab while I'm doing things. Now I've got my documentation for the function that I'm going to be using, which is this function task create right here in my script. Okay, next thing I want to do is let's start creating some tasks. So I am going to copy that and create my first task using that template. Okay, so the owner, these are all the parameters that we're going to pass to the function task create. So I need this define who is the owner of this task, who is going to receive it. The owner can be true or false, could be a specific object, could be a group, or it could be an entire side. I'm going to use side since my players are west side, and so any player that's on the west side will automatically get this task. The name or parent. Name or parent can be a string or an array. Okay, I could create a nest of subtasks and that sort of thing. Alright, I'm not going to bother with that in this tutorial. I'm just going to use plain old strings. So I'm going to call this one TSK1. It's been a long-standing sort of regular format that a lot of mission makers use for naming their tasks. You could name it really anything you wanted. Alright, so details is the description and the title and a marker. I never used the marker myself so far, so I am basically going to create the description and the title that you see in the mission briefing. The title also shows up if you're using the 3D version of task notifications that show up, above whatever object your task is. That title will show up. So let's copy this out of here just to keep it easy to understand. So basically I'm going to do that, and my description is what's going to show up in the long description. So this one is get in the Prowler. A player must get into the driver's seat of the Prowler. Alright, and we'll call this title Get In. And I'm not going to use a marker, so I'm just going to make that an empty string. Alright, I'm going to jump back a little bit. I'm going to create a roadmap for my tasks here, so I also have that. So a regular comment, a comment that's only one line. I'm going to say task 1 is, let's call it player in Prowler. And then the second task was what? Prowler in Garage. And then the third one was lunch is eaten. Okay, so that's just comments there for me to keep in mind what I'm working on. Destination. Okay, where is the task going to show where it needs to be done when you're looking at the map, or if you're using the 3D task icons, where is the actual task icon going to show what the destination is? So in this case, I want the destination to be the Prowler, and it can be an object, which means I can put the task right on the Prowler. No matter where the Prowler is, that's where the task is going to show. So I'm going to do that. I named the Prowler target Prowler in the editor, so that's what I'll use, the object name. Okay, what is the state of this? Okay, the state can be true or false. It could be a number, or it could be a string. The strings might be like as are either assigned or succeeded or failed, that sort of thing. So in this case, I want this task to be a first task. I'm just going to set it to be true, which is going to set it as the current task. So it's assigned, and it's assigned as the current task, right? The priority of the tasks is going to be when automatically selecting a new current task, the higher priority is selected first. Well, since this is my highest priority task, the first one I want to have selected, I'll make that a 99. Show notification is true or false, and I want it to show the on-screen notification. So true. What is the type? Now, the task type is defined in the config task types. So right now in the documentation for this, if I don't select this text, then you can see I can go to this hyperlink and it's going to load up the description.ext config task types. What you really want to do is go find the tasks overhaul wiki page, scroll all the way to the bottom, and here's the pictures of all the icons for all the different task types. So we're going to use these here. So since I want to use a get in, there is one. So I can call it simply get in, and I will get this icon on my tasks. So I'm going to go back over to here, and under type, I'm going to use get in. Alright, do I want this to be visible in 3D? Yes, and for tacticalgamer.com I may not do that, but however, for the sake of this demonstration, I certainly am going to. Alright, now we've created our first task. Okay, now let's see, let's create another one, and I'm going to use this now as a template. So copy that. I'm going to create my next task, and we'll set that template down for the one after. So task 2, alright, and this one is going to be the prowler is in the garage. Okay, so prowler, take the prowler to the garage. Alright. Oh, a short name for a title, I'll just call it garage. And the destination. Well, where is that garage? I'll have to go back into the editor and then get myself a destination. Actually, the easiest way to do this demonstration now is I'll just place an object later for the garage. I know where I'm going to call my trigger already, right? It's going to be prowler, because I always stick to a format. Prowler in garage server, because the trigger only needs to fire on the server. I'm going to add that to the trigger name. Okay, now, so that trigger will be an object that'll give me a location, a destination. So what is this state? I don't want the state to be true, okay, because I want it to be created. So I want the task to be created but not assigned yet. I'm going to set it as priority 2 by making it number 98. Alright, so as soon as task 1 completes, it's going to look for the next priority task, the highest, which would be 98, and then it's going to automatically assign that as an assigned task. Alright, and then what do we got? Show notification is true. What type do I want it to be? Well, I think I want it to be a move type. Alright, and I want it to be shown in the 3D world, yes. So task 3, we are going to, what is this? Lunch is eaten. Alright, and what can we use for an icon or a, let's see, we'll just call this lunch. The destination is going to be an object called tactical bacon. Alright. Do I want it to be true? No, I want it to be created. And its priority is going to be even lower to 97. Alright, and the type is going to be, what's neat here, as far as the icons go, as I was about to say, is at the bottom here, you have some default task type letters. So since there isn't really anything about eating in any of these icons, I'm going to use the letter E. Okay, so there's also a full set of capital letters available, and I'm going to use it for E, which, you know, most times you might be using as echo. So I'm just going to put the letter E in here, and there we go. Our tasks have been created. I'm going to use some variables to track the condition of some of these, but we'll get there in a minute. Okay, we now need to get in and take a quick look back to the editor. Okay, so back in the editor, I knew that I was going to create a few items. Let's work with the first task first, though. We're going to create a trigger. Alright, this trigger I'm going to call player in Prowler server, because I'm only going to run it server side. So the condition is not going to use any of these items here, so I'm going to erase the word this, and I'm basically going to say that I need to return who the driver of the target prowler is, because I named that prowler in the editor. So that will return the object that is the driver to me, and I want to check to see if it is in playable units. So as soon as a playable unit gets into the driver's seat of the target prowler, it's going to fire off this code. And what do I want it to be? Well, let's do the simple version right now, which is, okay, I'm going to use this function task set state. Alright, and the parameters I need to pass to it are 1, what is the task I'm trying to control, and 2nd, what is the state I want it to set to. So I'm just passing an array to that function. The first is task 1. That's what we named it when we created it, and the state I want it to be set to is succeeded. So that should do it. I mean, it is that simple to have that task complete. Now, let's see over here. I need to create a trigger for the garage. So I'm going to create a trigger. I want it to be a square. I want it to be, let's say, 5 meters wide, maybe 11 meters long, and I only want it to be 3 meters tall. So now I got a nice little trigger that might fit into this garage. Let's see. Go to the map view. See if I can get a better look at it. Yeah, that's looking okay, but let's get right up here. A little bit different up here, okay. Let's make it a little bit taller, maybe 4 meters, and maybe 11.5 meters long. Okay, good enough. I think that's going to do it. If I make this a little taller, I'll be able to actually see how it's lining up there a little bit better. And I think I want to make it a little larger in case they come in the other back door. And now I've got a trigger. Okay, so what I need to do here is I need to link it to that prowler. So I'm going to go connect the trigger, set the trigger owner to be my prowler. Did that work? Nope, I don't see it. So it looks like I have to do that right in the actual editor. So it's a little clunky, but there we go. Now when I open up that trigger, the owner is set to be, the prowler must be present and it must be server only. So I'm going to call this prowler in garage. Okay. And so the last one was the tactical bacon. So let's create an object of a can of tactical bacon. There he is. So we'll place that on the table. In order for this to stay on the table, okay, you need to disable the simulation. Otherwise that object will fall right through the table. I'll create another one over here that I'm not going to do anything with and just leave it on the table, and we'll notice that it's on the ground when we get into the mission. I'm going to create an add action on this to eat it. So this add action, okay, and then it's an array. The first element of the array is what text is going to show up. So it's going to be eat tactical bacon. And then the second array is a bunch of code I want it to execute when that add action is created. Now I'm going to call this object, name it tactical bacon. Alright, what I want it to do is first of all give me some visual feedback. So I'm going to create a hint and so there's a hint, and then I want to create a variable that's going to track this. So we're actually going to come back to this in a few minutes. All right. Okay. So that's what we've got so far. That should be everything. We can now test this first task, because that should complete, but the other ones won't yet. So let's take a look. Oh, I got a error in my line 1 of my so on my map I've now got my tasks. Get in was automatically assigned as my current task, and it's automatically assigned on the map where my prowler is, and I can see it above the prowler. So the trigger that we placed should automatically detect if I get into the driver's seat. Let's see if I get in as commander. Nothing happens, and I move to the driver's seat, and bam, there we go. And it automatically assigned the second task. So now I got to get to the garage. Alright, so we're going to go back and finish off some work on the scripts. Okay, so back in the scripts, this is what I changed. I was missing the equal sign. Here, that's all I had. When I don't need to store the return of the script into a variable. Don't know quite why it's some people say it's a best practice to make sure that you store that into a variable. I don't know why that's important. But anyway, that's the way I did it this time. And we've created our init tasks, and we know that this task is being controlled by that trigger. But I'm going to change the way that's being done. Okay, and I'm going to track it by using a variable. So every time I create one of these tasks now, I'm going to actually track its progress by a variable. So player in prowler equals false, and these are variables that are global to the server. Every script and every be available to every script and every process on the server, but they're only located on the server. No client will ever get these variables. Alright, so, and then prowler in garage equals false, and then lunch is eaten equals false. Now, but there's also one other thing I need to do. I am going to store, because we're using an add action on the tactical bacon, in order to show that it's been eaten. I'm going to create a variable on the tactical bacon object itself, and I'm going to declare it as a public variable every time I change it, so that when a client goes up and uses an add action that only happens on a client, which is using the add action, it's going to change the variable of the tactical bacon to have shown it as eaten and tell everybody that it's now been eaten. Okay, so tactical bacon set variable, and this is going to be an array. The first variable is the first element of the array is the name of the variable I want to create, and it's going to be actually I don't even need this one, so it's going to be lunch is eaten still. So I'm going to remove that line because I'm going to store it all here. Lunch is eaten. Okay, and the value is going to be false, and then I want it to be public is true. So it's going to create that variable on that object, and then it's going to tell everybody that connects to the server that it is false. Okay, so every time somebody joins in progress, they're going to get that that is false, unless we've changed it to something else. All right. So that is our init tasks.sqf. Now we need to create a script that's going to monitor the progress of our tasks. So I'm going to now execute, and I could do this. So scripts, and I usually use task monitor. It could be anything I want, monitor.sqf, and we will create that script. So in here, new script, task monitor, and let's get into editing it. So this one I'm going to be creating a loop. So I'm going to use a while do loop. So while run is true, then do everything between these curly brackets. Okay, so just create some nice space to make it easy to work with here. Now, what do we need to do? Well, we're going to use, back to our functions, we're going to be setting the task state for each of these. So I'm going to open that up in a new link. All right, task state, there's my parameters. I'm going to send it the task, the name of the task, and then set its state, and then tell it whether to show the hint or not, or the notification. Whoops. So what I want to do is I'm going to head into here, and let's monitor our first task. All right. Our first task was already set up to be automatically completed, so I don't need to do that here, but I'm going to convert it over in the editor, as you'll see. So I'm going to write my code for that now anyway. So I have an array, and it's going to call this function task set state, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to have task, or was it tsk1, would be equal to succeeded, and we do want it to show the notification. All right, and we only want this to fire if some conditions are met. So if this condition is met, then it's going to fire that. All right, so what's our condition? our condition is on that trigger that we created where I actually set the task state, I'm going to actually create a variable, right, which we already set it up, player in prowler. Alright, so that's all I'm going to use. If player in prowler, then set this notification. Now my problem is that every time it would run through this loop, the player is going to be in the prowler again. It's going to reset the task as succeeded, which I don't need. So now I'm going to need to track some progress in my script. So I'm going to use note I'm going to just use the word notify instead of notification as a prefix to my variable, and it's going to be player notify player in prowler. Okay, and just track if we have given the notification, and that is false. We have not given. Actually, I'll set it true. Do we need to notify that the player is in the prowler? Yes, we do. Alright, so if player in prowler and notify player in prowler, alright, then we'll do that, and then we're going to say notify player in prowler is false, because now we don't need to notify that, and so that means it'll never try to set the state again. Alright, so that's basically it. I'm going to do the same thing a couple more times here. Oops. Alright, so the next one is going to be, what was it? Prowler in garage, and notify prowler in garage. Then task 2 succeeded. And we need the set it state at the beginning too. Notify, whoops. And the last one would be notify so notify lunch is eaten, and that was task 3, and notify lunch is eaten is now false. Okay, now at the end of my loop I want to sleep. Let's say every 14 seconds it's going to check, so it's not continuously doing this over and over again. Now, how can I add the check the end condition? Well, I could add in one last thing to end the mission if all these are completed. So if, oh no, what do I got? Sorry, big error in my logic here. So it was notify lunch is eaten. So I need to know whether or not lunch is eaten, and that was a variable that we stored on the tactical bacon. So tactical bacon get variable lunch is eaten, and if that returns is true, right, and some player has used the add action, and we still have to add that part into the code on the add action to control that variable. We created it in the init tasks, alright, and set it to be false, and this is going to wait for it to be true. If it turns true, then and it needs to be notified, then we're going to set the task state. Alright, so the conditions here are now, if all these three conditions are all set to be true, then we're going to end the mission, right? So let's just finish the if-then statement. Then all right, do my indentation. All right, basically what I'm going to do is end mission, or everyone one, call this function end mission server. All right, and the condition is going to be if all these three are true. So if player in Prowler and Prowler in Garage and Tactical Bacon get variable lunch is eaten, then we know that all three tasks have been completed, and it will fire the end. Okay, so that's basically it. We need to get back into the editor. We need to change two things: the add action for the tactical bacon to actually set the variable to be true for lunch is eaten, and we also need to change that first task so that it's going to return player and Prowler as true, not actually set our task state. So starting from here, my trigger, that's player and Prowler, I'm actually just going to put player in Prowler equals true. That fixes that one. Alright, and then my add action over here, did I create it? No, I never did. Okay. On the trigger activation, nothing happens. So server only present, that would be Prowler in Garage equals true. Okay, that's done. And my add action on my tactical bacon, that's the easiest way to find it. I just need to add a second statement on my code here that's going to run when the add action is followed, which is going to be on the object tactical bacon set variable, and the first element of that array is the variable name, which is lunch is eaten is true. Come on now. And I want to broadcast that to all the connected computers. Alright, there we go. So that little there is going to then, on this object, set a variable called lunch is eaten, set its value to be true, and make sure everybody hears about it. Okay, that should be it. I should be able to hit save. Alright, going to do a couple things on my attributes here. I want to make sure I have access to the debug screen. So available for the host or logged in admin. I don't need to enable saving. Okay, and on the attributes on the multiplayer, I am going to disable AI auto assign slots. So every time I start this, it'll automatically slot me up. Makes testing faster. See, I'm already slotted. I hit enter. I'm in. Ooh, what have we got? We've got an error on line 6 on task monitor. Okay. Haha. Yep, one of those things while I'm talking and typing. While, run, do. There's no then. Okay, so such a simple error right there. Okay, we are good. Now I've got a new one. Undefined variable in Prowler in Garage. Well, let's see. What did I create? Prowler. I misspelled Prowler in Garage in the init tasks. So I'm just going to change that. Add the L in. There we go. Save it. Coming back in. I'm not going to bother showing that. So I've got my 3 tasks. Get in as assigned. And now my tracking should be completed, not directly from that trigger, but from here. Over the, I don't see a 3D task over this one. I do over there. I see the E. Let's see what I get. So my object of the trigger name didn't work for the location for the second task. I have it on the map though. Okay. Probably get from here. Oh, look at that. Tactical bacon stayed on the table. Alright. It's hard to get an add action off of a can. So I'm just gotta search. Oh, there it was. Eat tactical bacon. Alright, so for some reason my tasks are not showing as completed, so there's something wrong in my logic. Oh, I got that one at least. Let's figure that out. So my debugging, I've got player and prowler. Prowler in garage, and I know that lunch is eaten is working. So player and prowler, prowler in garage. Alright. So let's make sure I've got that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going in my editor, I'm going to check out the prowler. Alright, target prowler, yeah. No, I want to open the trigger. Yeah, again, I spelt it wrong there. That's why. Okay, so that's fixed. Let's check out the trigger for the garage. Wow, I keep forgetting the L in prowler for some reason. Wow, what a Saturday morning thing to do. Alright, now we should be good. Get this thing in there. That should complete that task in a moment. There we go. And this should be assigned. Eat tactical bacon. Where do I find it? It's a tricky one to find. I saw it there for a second too. Oh. Alright, there it is. So sometimes when I do this, I put the actual add action on the table instead of like the can. If you're going to use something that small. There we go. And it is that simple. You don't have to have all those extra triggers and all that stuff. I don't use the task modules in the editor anymore at all. And good luck with that, and make great missions.